I want you to start by doing something a little weird with me today.
Oh, boy.
No, it's easy, I promise. I want you to just close your eyes, assuming you aren't driving, of course.
Right. Please keep your eyes on the road if you're behind the wheel.
Exactly. But if you're safe at home, just close your eyes and visualize the past. Like, go back to the 1800s or the early 1900s. What does it actually look like in your head?
Well, I mean, if you're like most people, it's probably entirely sepia-toned.
Yeah, totally.
Everyone is wearing these heavy wool suits, nobody is smiling in the photos, and they're all speaking in these very long, perfect, grammatically complex paragraphs.
Right, very proper. And then on the flip side, there is the now, the modern digital age.
Where everything is fast.
Exactly. Everything is fast. Everything is abbreviated. It's all slang and emojis. And I think we have this very rigid line in our heads that separates the proper history from our messy modern world.
It's a really common cognitive bias, actually. We assume that our modern way of speaking is this sharp break from history.
Like we invented being casual.
Precisely. We think we invented casual speech, rather than it's just being a continuation of how people have always talked.
But here's the thing, and this is the whole point of our deep dive today. That line is completely imaginary.
Completely.
And today, we're going to prove it to you. We've pulled together this massive stack of sources. We've got etymological dictionaries, private letters, literary analysis.
And they all basically prove that we are living in a linguistic time loop.
Yes. We tend to think we are living in this unique, futuristic moment, but our language tells a totally different story.
It really does. I mean, just look at the vocabulary we use to describe our own technology. If I say the word antivirus, what pops into your head?
Oh, computer software. Silicon Valley. Trying to uninstall McAfee in the late 90s.
Right. It feels incredibly tech-forward and modern.
Yeah.
But antivirus wasn't coined by a coder or a software engineer. It was a medical term.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it was coined in 1914.
1914, so right at the start of World War I.
Exactly. And what's even crazier is that the same year, 1914, gave us the phrase time travel.
Hold on. I know H.G. Wells wrote The Time Machine in the 1890s.
Mm-hmm.
Did he not use the phrase time travel?
No, he actually didn't. He usually referred to time travelers or just the machine itself.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the specific compound noun, time travel, as a unified concept, didn't appear in print until 1914.
That is wild.
And if you want to really shatter that sepia-tone image of the Victorians we were talking about, look at the word spaceship.
Okay, spaceship has to be mid-20th century, like Buck Rogers era, right?
No, 1880?
1880, are you kidding? That is decades before the Wright brothers even flew a plane.
I know.
We had a word for spaceship before we could even fly a kite with an engine attached to it.
It did. It appeared in a novel called Across the Zodiac, and the word astronaut, also 1880.
Wow.
So the entire vocabulary of the space age was actually established by people who were still getting around London by horse and carriage.
That completely reframes how I think about those eras. They were already dreaming up the terminology for things that wouldn't actually exist for another century.
Precisely. They were laying the linguistic groundwork.
Okay, so if our futuristic sci-fi words are actually antiques, what about our slang? What about the words we use when we're just hanging out or texting or trying to sound cool?
That is a real question.
And that is our mission for this deep dive. We're going to run through a list of 20 words and phrases that feel incredibly modern, some that even feel like internet slang but actually date back to the Victorians or Shakespeare or even Henry VIII.
And we aren't just looking at dates here, by the way. We really want to look at the fluidity of English. This is fundamentally a story about how modern coolness is basically just recycling the past.
So let's start with the one category that genuinely blew my mind when we were doing the research for this, the internet acronyms.
Ah, these are fantastic.
Because if there is one single thing that defines modern communication, it's text speak, right? The idea that we're simply too lazy to type out full words on our phones.
Right. The general assumption is always that smartphones destroyed our attention spans, which led directly to all these acronyms.
Exactly. So take OMG, the quintessential reaction. You see something shocking, you just type OMG. It's practically the heartbeat of the internet.
Well, you might be surprised to learn that the first recorded use of OMG was not in an AOL chat room in 1998.
No.
No. It was in a letter written in 1917.
1917, again, World War I.
Yes. And specifically, it was a letter sent to Winston Churchill.
Shut up. Winston Churchill got an OMG.
He really did. It was written by John Fisher, who was the first Sea Lord of the British Royal Navy at the time.
Okay, so the head of the Navy is texting Churchill. What was he so shocked about?
He was writing to Churchill about some new knighthood rumors that were going around, and he was clearly very annoyed by them. So in the letter, he writes OMG.
Just the letters.
Just the letters. But then because he knew it was slang and thought Churchill might not actually get it, he put in parentheses right next to it. Oh, my God.
That is incredible. A British admiral in the middle of a global war using teenage text slang.
It really shows that the impulse to abbreviate common phrases isn't about technology at all. It's about efficiency.
And I guess Fisher and Churchill were close colleagues, so they probably had a shorthand with each other.
Exactly. Slang is often about intimacy, just as much as it is about laziness. It's a way of signaling that you're in the same in-group.
That makes total sense. But sometimes those acronyms shift their meaning entirely over time, which means we have to talk about LOL.
Ah, yes. Laugh out loud.
Right. Now, I know laugh out loud as a phrase became popular on Usenet groups in the mid-90s. That's pretty well documented by linguists.
It is true, but the actual acronym LOL appeared in a newspaper headline way back in 1960.
1960, so completely pre-internet. What were they laughing out loud about in 1960?
They weren't laughing. That is the twist here. In 1960 San Francisco, the headline used LOL to stand for little old lady.
You're joking.
I am completely serious. It was a very common shorthand in that specific region for a while.
So imagine reading a text today that says, I'm going to the park, LOL.
In 1960, that would mean you're going to the park with a little old lady.
That completely changes the vibe of every text message I've ever received. Like, I tripped on the sidewalk, little old lady.
It's a perfect example of how language recycles the acronym itself, but changes the cargo, the meaning inside it. We keep the letters, but we just swap out the definition when we need a new one.
Okay, let's move from the early internet to the pop culture of the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah.
Because there are certain words that are just permanently glued to specific memories for a lot of people. Like, do you remember Wayne's World?
The movie with Mike Myers and Dana Carvey? Absolutely. A massive cultural phenomenon.
Exactly. And they had this huge fad where they would say a sentence, pause for a second, and then shout not at the end to negate the whole thing.
Right. Like, this is a great idea.
Exactly.
It's actually a very specific rhetorical device. It's called a paraprosdokian.
Oh, what?
Paraprosdokian. It's where the end of the sentence forces you to completely reframe the beginning of it. But the funny thing is, Mike Myers did not invent the not joke.
He didn't.
No. That usage actually appears in literature from 1860.
1860.
Oh.
Who on earth was doing a Wayne's World bit in 1860?
George Eliot.
The novelist.
Yes. In her classic novel, The Mill on the Floss.
You're telling me a classic Victorian novelist used the not joke?
She absolutely did. There is a line where a character is thinking about a woman, and the text literally reads, he hoped she did, M-not.
No way.
Yes, the syntax is designed to lead the reader one way, and then the not at the very end just pulls the rug out from under you. It is the exact same comedic structure.
That is hilarious. I'm just picturing a bunch of Victorian gentlemen in top hats shouting not at each other in a drawing room.
It breaks that timeline we talked about at the beginning, doesn't it? Humor relies on surprise, and that structure is clearly timeless.
It really is. And speaking of breaking timelines, let's talk about MTV for a second. Specifically the show MTV Cribs.
Ah, yes. Welcome to my crib, the ultimate slang for a giant luxury mansion.
Right. But we found out that Shakespeare actually used crib to describe a dwelling in the 1590s.
He did.
Was it in a play?
Yes, in Henry IV, Part 2. But here is where it gets really interesting contextually. Shakespeare's usage was actually the exact opposite of MTV's.
How so?
When Shakespeare wrote the word crib, he meant a cramped, shabby hovel, a very small, confined pore space.
Oh, that is interesting. So it went from meaning a total dump to meaning a multi-million-dollar mansion.
Exactly. It's an ironic inversion over time. You could call your massive mansion a crib to sound humble, or maybe to actively mock the idea of humility. But the word itself has been housing people, linguistically speaking, for over 400 years.
That plays perfectly into another one on our list, fly. Like, oh, that guy is fly. That feels very 90s hip-hop to me. Maybe in living color. Jennifer Lopez, starting out as a fly girl.
It definitely has that 90s association. But fly as a slang term actually dates all the way back to 1753.
1753. Who was using it then?
It appears in the memoirs of a highwayman, a literal horse-riding robber named John Poulter.
A highwayman?
Yes, and in his memoirs, he describes someone wearing a fly-white petticoat.
A highwayman talking about fly fashion. I love that.
And it goes back even further. Before that, in 1724, fly meant being keenly aware or sharp.
like having street smarts.
Exactly. So the evolution goes from being sharp-witted to being sharp-dressed, and it connects the 18th century street criminal directly to the 1990s hip-hop artist.
Because both are outside the mainstream.
Right, and both use language to signal that they are faster and smarter than the establishment.
I love that so much. It connects you directly to this long lineage of people just trying to look and sound cool.
Which actually is a perfect transition.
It is. Let's talk about vibes and state of mind. Because we have so many modern words for how we perceive others and how we feel.
And cool is really the grandfather of them all.
Cool feels so timeless. But I know it originally just meant temperature.
Right. In Old English, it simply meant slightly cold, nothing more. But the journey it took to meaning hipness is fascinating. In 1884, there's a written record of someone exclaiming, "That's cool."
That's cool. In 1884.
Yes. But linguists actually aren't sure if it was meant as a compliment or an insult in that context. It was very ambiguous.
So when did it become purely positive?
It wasn't until 1918 that we have solid confirmation of cool being used to mean sophisticated or fashionable.
1918. So the jazz age really cemented that usage.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Staying cool while the jazz music gets hot. Which brings me to the word hot, because that has a double meaning too.
Yeah.
Temperature and attractiveness.
And that dual meaning is much, much older than you'd probably guess. Hot was used to describe flustered desire as far back as the 14th century.
Wow. So people have literally been hot and bothered for 700 years.
Yep. And by 1886, it was explicitly being used to describe someone as sexually attractive.
So hot and cool have essentially been battling it out in our vocabulary for well over a century.
They have.
Then you have the word high. Now, that's usually associated with the 60s counterculture, or just modern drug culture in general.
Well, getting high in alcohol actually dates back to 1607.
1607,
Yeah. But the specific application to drugs, that appears a bit later, around 1935.
Way earlier than the 60s.
Oh, definitely. It's really interesting how we use spatial metaphors for these things. High, low, heavy, light. We use them to describe altered states of consciousness, and it seems to be a pretty universal human tendency.
Definitely. Now, one phrase I use all the time when I'm feeling totally indifferent about something is so-so. You know, you ask someone, how was the movie? And they go, hey, it was so-so.
Right.
It feels like a very casual, very modern dismissal.
That one goes all the way back to the royal court of Henry VIII.
Get out.
I'm serious. It is in a dictionary from 1530 written by a man named John Palsgrave.
Who was he?
He was the tutor to the royal household. He actually taught the king's sister.
Wow.
And in his dictionary, so-so was the English translation for a specific French idiom, tellement, tellement.
So saying something is so-so is actually just a direct translation of 16th century French.
Precisely. It's not lazy modern speak at all. It's literal Tudor court language. It was used as a very diplomatic way to say something was just mediocre.
That is fantastic. I am going to feel very regal the next time I describe a mediocre sandwich to someone. I'll just say, it is merely so-so.
As you should.
Let's move on to how we label people. Identity. Because we love putting labels on each other.
We really do. And one of the most pervasive labels we have in American English is dude.
Dude. It feels so distinctly like a surfer thing or maybe a 90s skater thing.
Its origin is actually 1883.
1883.
Yes, but here is the twist. The original meaning wasn't friend or guy. A dude was a dandyish fop.
A fop, like someone who is totally obsessed with their clothes.
Exactly. Someone who was overly concerned with their appearance, perhaps acting a bit ridiculous. If you called an actual cowboy a dude in the 1880s, you were insulting him. Yes. You were calling him a city slicker who didn't belong out west. That's where dude ranch comes from.
Oh. So calling someone a dude was fighting words back then.
Originally, yes.
Where did the word even come from?
There are three main theories linguists have. One is that it's short for Yankee Doodle, you know, the dandy who stuck a feather in his cap.
Oh, sure.
Another theory is that it's clipped from the word attitude. And the third is that it comes from duds, which was 16th century slang for clothes.
That third one makes a lot of sense, like nice duds. So a dude is just someone who is completely defined by their duds.
Correct. But over time, it shed all of that insult and just became a label. Now it's probably the most generic, gender-neutral term for a person that we have.
We also love to talk about celebs. And I always assumed celeb was strictly tabloid speak, like something you'd see in the grocery store checkout line in the 90s.
It definitely feels that way.
Yeah.
But the word celebrity, meaning a famous person, dates back to 1831. And the shortened version, celeb, pops up in print in 1907.
1907. So they were gossiping about celebs before movies even had sound.
They absolutely were. And if those celebs were acting crazy or energetic, they might be called hyper.
Short for hyperactive, obviously.
Yes. The medical term hyperactive was coined in 1867. The shortened slang hyper appears by 1942.
Wow. And what about extra? My niece uses this all the time, like, oh, he's being so extra, meaning over the top or dramatic.
This is another one where the meaning has shifted just slightly over time. In 1917, extra was slang for something particularly good or impressive.
Oh, so it was a compliment back then.
Yes, it was likely a shortening of extraordinary.
Yeah.
So today, being extra means you're being a bit much. But in 1917, being extra was exactly what you wanted to be.
I just love how these words are like little time capsules that got shaken up and opened in a different era.
It shows that we are constantly clipping words. We are lazy, but in a very productive, creative way.
Let's look at our final category today. Professional and social slang. The words we use at work or when we're making plans to see friends.
This is where we see some really surprising shifts in professional jargon. Take the word legit.
Like, oh, that seems legit.
Right. That comes from 19th century theater.
Theater.
Yeah. It was an industry term used to distinguish legitimate drama, serious plays, Shakespeare from farces, variety comedy, or burlesque shows.
Well, saying something is legit is basically just saying, this isn't a clown show.
Exactly. It validates the quality of the thing. It was a way for serious actors to assert their status over variety performers.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, here is a word from our sources that completely flipped its meaning. Smash.
This is a great story. Today, if you say something is a smash hit, it means it's a massive success.
Right. The Avengers was a smash at the box office.
But in 1839, a smash meant a crushing commercial failure.
A complete failure.
Think of it like a market crash, a smash-up. If your business was a smash, it meant it was utterly destroyed.
How did it become a good thing?
In 1923, Variety magazine, which, by the way, has invented a huge amount of American slang, used the phrase smash hits to describe two Broadway plays, The Fool and The Rise of Rosie O'Reilly.
And just like that, it flipped.
It flipped almost overnight from a financial wreck to a box office sensation. It seems the intensity of the word remained, the sheer impact of a smash, but the sentiment went from intensely negative to intensely positive.
Speaking of business, we also have the word biz.
Showbiz, mind your own biz.
Sure, that one has to be modern.
1862.
Wow.
It was used by a humorist named Charles Farrar Brown, who wrote under the pen name Artemus Ward. And he was actually a favorite author of Abraham Lincoln.
Wait, Abraham Lincoln read the guy who coined biz?
He did. In fact, Lincoln used to read Ward's stories out loud to his cabinet members just to lighten the mood during the Civil War. And in one of those stories, Brown wrote, "I must forth to my biz."
I must forth to my biz.
That sounds so incredibly strange to hear in a 19th century voice.
Yeah.
It sounds like a time traveler who is desperately trying to blend in but failing.
It really does. Okay, what else? Oh, if you're in the biz, you might need to spill some information.
Spill the tea. Spill the beans. The evolution of this one is actually quite dark.
Really?
Yeah. Originally, spill meant to kill or destroy. Literally, to spill blood. Then, in the early 19th century, it shifted to mean betraying a fellow criminal to the police.
So being a snitch.
Right. But by the turn of the 20th century, the meaning softened considerably. It just meant revealing any kind of secret or gossip.
So we went all the way from literal bloodshed to police betrayal to just casually chatting over coffee.
Exactly.
And where do we do that chatting? We hang out.
This is one of my favorites. Even the Victorians were hanging out.
Really? They use that exact phrase?
Yes. As a verb, to hang out, meaning to just pass time together casually, dates back to 1846. And as a noun, a hangout, meaning a place you go to pass the time, dates to 1852.
I just have this vivid image of guys in top hats and waistcoats saying, hey man, let's go to the hangout.
And once they got there, they would probably have a confab.
Confab. That sounds like purely modern business speak. Like, let's have a quick confab in the conference room.
It's short for confabulation, which has its roots in the 15th century, but the clipped version, confab, dates to 1701.
1701. That is ridiculously early for something that sounds so completely corporate.
And if you agree with the plan during your 1701 confab, you might just say natch.
Short for naturally.
That one is 1940s jazz slang.
Natch. It's so snappy.
So if we look at this whole list we've gone through, biz, confab, natch, hyper, celeb, we see a really clear pattern. We absolutely love to clip words. We love to make them faster and punchier.
But we also love to repurpose them, like crib going from a hovel to a mansion, or smash going from a terrible failure to a huge success.
And LOL going from a little old lady to a reaction of laughter.
Exactly. So bringing it all together, what does this actually mean for you, the listener, right now? Because we started this whole deep dive by saying the line between the past and present is imaginary.
I think it means we should feel a much deeper connection to the history of our own casual conversations. You know, we constantly hear complaints that language is degrading or that kids these days are ruining English with their made-up internet words.
Right. The classic get off my lawn argument about slang.
Exactly. But the truth is, we aren't destroying the language at all. We're just tending the garden. The plants change, but the soil is exactly the same. When you say something is legit, you are using the slang of a 19th century stage actor.
Yeah.
When you type OMG, you are quoting a World War I admiral. When you say dude, you are referencing a 130-year-old insult.
It's weirdly comforting, isn't it?
Yeah.
We aren't disconnected from the past at all. We are literally quoting it every single day without even knowing it.
Absolutely. Language is a living museum, and we are all the curators, whether we realize it or not.
So the next time someone complains to you that you're using made-up words, you can confidently tell them that you are actually speaking 18th century highwayman slang.
That should shut them up pretty quickly, or at least give them something to think about during their next confab.
For sure. But before we go, here's a final thought to leave you with. We saw how smash flipped from failure to success, and crib went from poor to rich. It really makes you wonder, what word are you using today, right now, that will mean the exact opposite in 100 years?
Will awful go back to meaning full of awe? Will terrific go back to meaning terrifying?
Or will something we say is garbage eventually mean treasure?
Only time and language will tell.
Thanks for diving in with us today. Catch you on the next one. Natch.